Like, it's too obvious. It's too obvious who he wants me to be mad at. And then I go and see the one part that essentially, well, I also feel icked out by a third man in that movie. Well, a fourth man. Let's say. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Pointless Discourse with myself, Hoppocalypse, and Itisdpayne.
I'm mad! Ah! And that's what this movie's about. Outro.
Yes, so we are continuing our series of movies. It feels like I forgot how to do the opening because we did have a little bit of a break because I had my in-person book club, which is the same time as our usual recording time. But I'll figure it out.
I played Call of Cthulhu.
Fun. Is that your finale episodes?
Oh no, the finale was like 6 months ago. This is season 2.
Exciting. More exciting.
Yeah. Yep. Which, unfortunately, John and Elizabeth weren't able to do it this year. But friend of the podcast, Blackjack, he's in it this year. So, yeah. The recording scheduling is a little bit different, but it's all good.
Wrangling people to all meet at the same time is a nightmare.
It should be a job in itself.
Almost like there are scheduling assistants that exist for that. But what do I know?
I don't know. I'm not looking that up.
Yeah. In any case, we have our series that we're continuing of watching 12 notable directors throughout the year, the legendary directors. This month I have ruined the schedule because I've ruined the timeline. Because I was like, hey, these are probably the shortest movies that we're watching, so let's just like rush through them. And on one hand, I'm like, oh, I'm glad I'm watching these so quick, like close to each other, because in a way it's a fun way to see the real difference in the directing style, especially when you said the fact that her first movie she directed was only because somebody, he passed away.
He had like heart failure and then died, so she finished the movie.
Yeah,
pretty much.
And like seeing like, it feels like you can tell that she's getting more confident in directing with each of the movies because they're a bit more bold, especially this movie that we're talking about, because it almost feels like it has the same ideas as her first movie, but that this one is actually fleshed out from beginning to end, rather than I blink and she's in another city, and I blink and she's like talking to a different guy, and I blink and she's in the hospital. Whereas we have is as the poster says, victim of attack. Big bold red letters.
Yes. Ah. Oh, I thought you were still going. I was just making noises.
I wasn't sure if you had something else to add to that, but
no, it's interesting because like right before we hit record, we were talking about like because I watched this movie and the next movie I watched back to back, which was interesting, but what sold us on this was the article we were reading saying that Ida Lupino does noir films, and I was wondering, I'm like, I wonder like what are the most like what is considered like staple or like the poster for film noir, and how well does this connect? Because I think we said like in the first or second episode, I can't remember, I think it was the second episode, Never Fear, where we thought film noir was this one thing, like the
thing that you see in all the cartoons.
The like grizzled detective that's just like,
this dame walked in as I was about to lock my doors for the night.
Smoking my 30-second cigarette in 2 minutes.
Drinking my whiskey neat.
Yes. No rocks here. I don't know.
Insert puns.
Yes. But, yeah, so I think we were expecting something on the lines of this, or that, and then with this, it is, I think, still movies. I think a lot of these movies would still translate well today.
Yeah,
I think especially this one and the next one. I think still hold up.
They're pretty timeless. I think the first movie, I think I said it during that episode, really only suffers from the fact that the facilities that the movie spends a lot of time in don't exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We go, oh, you have trouble as a young woman? Well, you need to suffer for it. Rather than back in those days, they're like, we all understand, but we're going to keep it a secret as best as we can. Not that that's much healthier, but it's at least a place that the girls felt, like the one girl was like, I don't have family. This is the safest I've felt in a long time. And it's like, oh, that's a true quote, probably.
Yeah, it starts off with that theme song. All in this together. I don't remember the next part. I think that's Family Matters. Or...
The lyrics make me think of High School Musical.
I don't know. I never watched High School Musical. But I have this like image of some... I don't know if it's Family Matters or I'm blanking on the other one that I didn't watch a lot of Family Matters. I watched the other one a bunch that I'm complete... Hold on.
I was going to say, if you're not careful, someone's going to suggest that we watch sitcoms next.
Oh, I was thinking of Family Matters. Yeah, no, I did. I remember, well, actually, what was on the TV a lot of the times when I got home was Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. But that's a completely different theme song. But, yeah, anyway. Yeah, all that being said, yeah, it goes from, like, that, like, yeah, everyone working together, and now today's it's just, like, it's time to have the greatest game. Man. So, and then I thought of a joke, but it is very due to recent topics that may have came out this week and would probably fit with next episode. So
Fair
anyway,
enough. Yeah,
we'll see if I remember it.
Yeah, I just remember right before I started to watch the movies, Dpayne messaged me, I'm so excited to hear you talk crap about the man in this movie. And you were like specifically, only this one, by the way. The other one, probably not. But this one specifically.
Yeah, there's one, yes, like, is the reason why there's a movie. But the actions of another one, I'm like, I know Hop's gonna hate this man.
I was waiting, and I was like, it's too obvious. It's too obvious who he wants me to be mad at. And then I go and see the one part that essentially, well, I also feel icked out by a third man in that movie. Well, a fourth man. Let's say...
I was pretty sure there was more than just the one. I was like... You're probably not going to
There are different moments. Yeah. The person I liked the most was her dad. Because he had his little monologue in it with, like... Well, we'll get into it when we actually start talking about the movie. Let's not spoil Outrage, which is a movie that is how old now?
1950. So... Oh, it's 75 years old.
Happy 75th birthday.
Yeah.
It released in September, so we're a little early for its birthday.
Happy early birthday. We'll be talking about, what, David Lynch at that point? Now I'm curious. Gonna blind myself September. Oh, I was right.
Look at us. We only schedule things a full year in advance. Don't worry, guys. We're mentally well.
There's movies that I want to put in David Lynch's thing now, but I'm like, no.
Oh, I already set up the Akira Kurosawa list, so you can set up the David Lynch list.
Okay. Well, I'll say this and then I'll stop here because I feel like this will be its own conversation. But from what I know and have heard from David Lynch, there's a lot of disturbing... He's got a lot of, like, kind of dreamlike, lucid, and just almost strange things. So I'm like, I know movies that I think I'd be interested in watching, but I want you to give the thumbs up before we go in there. So it's just like, we don't have another Cell.
But it makes for great discussion.
It does make good for discussion.
The Twizzler suit will never die.
I don't think we're going to have something like The Cell, but there's... pretty much I was listening to a podcast where this guy's like, I watched this one movie, which is one of the movies I want to watch for this podcast. And he's like, I thought David Lynch was the devil. And I thought he was possessed from watching that movie. And so I'm like,
I
so
mean, I'm
I will
willing.
make suggestions.
We've watched through A24 films. We've watched The Cell. We've watched Christmas horror films, quote unquote. We watched.
I know we watched a bunch.
Yeah, we've watched a lot of stuff where I go, Like, as long as... What I will say is if you want to watch a movie, just do me a favor. There's the website, Does the Dog Die? And you can just double check if an animal dies in it. And if it doesn't say graphic, then I'll just give you the thumbs up now.
Well, I don't even know if there's animals in it. I'm just gonna... Hold on. I will literally
I mean, we did watch Talk to Me, and then I know we'd had the discussion where we both were like, that was a close call, guys.
Oh, yes. I was literally typing in, and I was spelling it wrong. I think it was like, don't dog die, nuz. But yeah. Anyway, but we're not here to talk about something that's going to be recorded in, oh my goodness, 6 months.
At least maybe 5 months from now we'll be watching those.
For us, it's going to be real interesting because that's like Charity Palooza time too. Like when we'll
that's
be doing
why
all that.
Yeah, that's why I offered, well, the movies are short, let's cram them in, because the next month's movies are also relatively short.
Yes, I did choose all of them. I'm excited for that. I'm also excited for next month because I saw what you put and I'm like, ooh, there's a couple movies on there that have been on my list to watch. But anyway,
the month after that. Oh, and then, like I said, I put Akira Kurosawa's movies.
Oh, you already... I did hear you say that. I haven't even looked at them. But yes, I do see that, yeah. I'm excited. I'm very excited for what we are doing. It's just sometimes when I look at the list of movies that I'm just like... I think Stanley Kubrick put me... like. I don't regret watching his movies, but I think it wasn't the best one to start off on.
I think it was a great one to start with, only because...
So everything got better?
No, only because it's one of those things where if you say this to someone, probably the 3 names you would hear would be Tarantino, Kubrick, or... Oh, who's the third one that's like the big one that everyone references that... There's one other one that, like, I feel like those 3 names always come up when you're like, oh, you're watching specific directors. And I think...
The only one that's popping in my head isn't even a director. I don't even find him funny. It's Jim Gaffigan.
I don't know where you're...
I just, like, I don't know why his name is coming up in my head. Oh, wait, he's the one that talks about bacon bits, right? I don't know. Anyway, different thing.
But, but I feel like we were probably, like, required to have one of those directors. And out of, like... If the options were, like, make sure to have Tarantino or Kubrick.
Spielberg.
Yeah, Spielberg also comes up a lot. Yeah, if I had to pick between those 3, I'd rather pick Kubrick out of those 3.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I am just a natural-born hater.
Yeah, it's amazing our friendship has lasted this long with your copious amounts of hate.
Especially against men, specifically. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. I don't know how I lasted this long. I distract you by talking about dice and clicky-clacky board games.
Very clickety-clackety.
Mm-hmm. Right. But, yeah, shall we roll some dice to find out who's going to be given the talkie-walkie-malaki? My brain got stuck.
That's totally fine, because I realized I don't think we ever said that the movie we watched is Outrage by Ida Lupino, or Ida. And so the format that we have for this series is we're going to be rolling dice. Whoever rolls highest gives a short 1 to 2 sentence summary of the movie, and then we have a couple questions to kind of give the vibes of the movie and our overall thoughts without going into any spoilers. And then we will go into Spoiler Town and make sure to warn you ahead of time. So if you choose to go watch this, you're free too. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be me again. Oh, and we roll 12-sided dice because we're watching 12 directors throughout the year.
I rolled infinity.
Good for you. I rolled a 5.
Oh, I rolled an 8. Oh, you beat me to it.
Haha. Don't blind yourself.
It's too late. I already clicked to go see it. Yep. So, yes, this movie, in short, is Brain just rebooted. Yeah, so we follow a young girl who pretty much her life is all by like the book is falling into place. Like, or her boyfriend proposes. Her parents, well, half the parents, one is very excited, one is begrudgingly excited.
Yeah, he's a teacher.
Yeah.
And the kid failed he failed his algebra class specifically, which is really funny to me because the beginning you have this little like bit like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to be together forever. Yeah, but do I have to be there? Can you tell your parents without me? Because like your dad scares me. Oh, he's just a mathematician.
Yeah, and then you see him and he's just like, you're scared of him?
He's sitting there and he's like picking at the couch cushion like, save me. I don't know what to say. I failed math. I don't speak math. And I'm like, you could speak English, but, you know.
Yeah. We'll get into that in a second, I guess. But yeah, so anyway, so everything's falling into place. It's all good. But then as she's leaving work one day, a person that runs a coffee bar thing.
Like a food stand.
Yeah. Pretty much who is very interested in her but doesn't really talk. From what we see, doesn't interact with her, just kind of admires her from afar. And admiring goes too far and, I guess to put it tastefully, decides to pursue unwanted relationships for a night. And that leads into a fade to black to the rest of the movie where we deal with this girl kind of dealing with the aftermath and trauma from that to the point where she runs away from town to go to this remote kind of
farm, pasture.
Yeah, I'm blanking on the name. I'm like looking through the Wikipedia.
Like she was going to Los Angeles and stopped somewhere along the way on like one of the bus rides.
Yeah, because well, they put a report on her on the radio.
Oh yeah, she's at the diner and she goes, oh.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if it's in here real quick, but
I don't see a name in the wiki.
It's all good. But yeah. So, but the movie is dealing with everything like pretty much her kind of how she looks at life and deals with the trauma on her own moving forward in that time. And I feel like the rest we will discuss going on. But I don't know, was there anything you would like to add to that?
This movie was placed in the Library of Congress because the version that I watched at least had a little blurb in the beginning. Or I think maybe this and the next movie were put in it. I don't remember which one I saw it on, but it does say in the Wikipedia, in 2020, the film was selected for preservation in the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. I'm going to assume culturally because I think in the wiki it also says this is like the second post, it's labeled as post-code, which I think is after like censorship laws changed in Hollywood. But it's the only other movie before this to deal with the issue of, as you said, unwanted relations was a movie from 1948. So this is like the second known one.
The way my brain translated what you said was the name of the movie.
No, the name of that movie, the first one is Johnny Belinda.
Alrighty. Well, I do have a very important question for you.
Oh, you're asking the questions even though you gave the summary. How brave
Yeah,
of you.
because you wrote my name. If this just so happened to be the only movie of Vito Lupino that you've ever watched in your entire life, would you watch the rest?
Yeah.
Same.
I think I was surprised at how scary the one pursuit scene was. because a lot of modern movies use music, and it was so quiet.
Yep.
And it was just a lot of shadows, and I was like, she's not making it out. And I was like, oh, I have to lower down the volume because that car horn's really loud.
Yep. It was just like, yeah, just the silence, and then it's just like, oh, she, like, I know what happens in this movie, but, like, and this is when it's gonna happen. But it's like, what? Does it have? Like, man, people had really bad eyesight then, and then it's like, whoa!
Yeah, I think the scene that scared me the most is when she's run away and he's like alone in an alley, but the camera is above him. So then his shadow is like really tall, and it's just really quiet, and he's just standing there quietly. And I was like, this is scarier than a lot of like recent movies I've watched.
Hey. Hey. Who knew that hey would be so intimidating? And it's
But
like,
I
where
mean,
does everyone go?
I think it does do a great perspective of like how scary it was for her. Mm-hmm. I felt extra bad when people are like, "Oh, shut up already." She's like, "Please, somebody help me."
Yeah.
Feels bad, man. But yeah, I would definitely. I guess I would give it an A for would watch rest of catalog. How about you?
Same. And I have.
Spoilers.
But no, I thought this one was really good. I think the way they handled things, that we'll get into later. I think they handled it tastefully. Not that I watched a lot of movies from the 1950s. I think
it could have been, yeah, I think what I appreciate about this movie is it could have gone, usually movies that discuss this topic go one of two directions. Well, I guess I'll say three. The three directions are self-discovery, which is what this movie kind of leans towards. There's self-destruction, which you'll see in, like, the characters are like, I keep doing things because I have no self-worth, which is realistic, but also dramatization in movies takes it to an extreme. Or there's the whole, I'm angry at the world and everybody else has to hear about it angle. And I like seeing it from a self-discovery point of view, especially in a time where I feel like most people would make her out to be the bad guy in that time period. At least from like, at least the way a lot of people treat women today. And when they come out and say like, hey, that person you idolize actually like committed a crime, and then they go, well, you're lying, and then try and like do that angle of it. So it's interesting that a director from this time, the 1950s, was able to tell it in a way that was healing for the main character.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a fourth way.
What's the fourth one?
Origin story, how they become a vigilante.
Rather than being orphaned like Batman.
Yeah. They stop other people from being orphaned and give them the old RoboCop treatment. Mm. I don't know if that reference was understood now that I'm saying it out loud. Have you watched RoboCop?
You've told me that the one iteration you were not a fan of. The I don't remember which movie one, but you said like the newer one was more RoboCop, true to origin material, but then nobody watched it.
I don't know. I don't remember if I said that.
Was it RoboCop? Or was that Dread?
Dread.
Sorry.
Yes.
I just think...
It's okay. Like, in the comics, they have a lot of crossover.
And, like, they're tall dudes that, like, are maybe cops.
It's really funny. So, I don't mean to go down a RoboCop tangent, but the actor for RoboCop was actually, like, 5'6". Mm-hmm. And it is one of those things where they purposely shot like different shots to make him look intimidating, even though
like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, but like, so there's a really famous, actually it's the scene where I was kind of joking about, where he's walking through this town, finds these two guys that are gonna try to do the same thing that's in the beginning of this movie. And he's like, stop. But like the way that's shot is because like he is just way shorter than everyone in that film. Like they have the camera and he steps in front of the camera and the camera's slanted up between
looking up at him.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but it's like he's standing, like the camera's a little bit behind him between his legs looking out towards everybody. And so he just looks like this imposing figure. Because like the outline is just his kind of legs looking down. And the perspective is like the criminals and everything are really small. And like they're far away from him, but it makes him look so much more bigger than he has. And like in that movie, everything that they shoot, like when it's just him is like, or when he's around people, the camera's pointed up at him to make him look more intimidating. But the reason why I made the RoboCop joke was in that scene, he's like, he shoots the dicks off the people that are trying to do the things. And so it's like, there you go. That would be.
That's why I said like I guess your vigilante version would match with the I'm mad and I'm going to make it everybody else's problem.
Yeah.
Because I think of things like
Saw.
Well, I was going to say like Pearl and X.
Yeah. Anyway, what's our next question? Oh, did you root for any of the characters? Hi, beat you to it.
I rooted for the main girl.
Safe answer.
I mean, I already said there's like only one male character that I didn't get the ick from.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I did root for her, like, which is good since the story is mainly from her perspective. And all that. Yeah, I don't really have much else to, like, I feel like anything else I feel like would be in spoiler town.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the other people in her hometown let her down.
Yeah, I didn't realize there was that many people like walking around.
until she's aware of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I'll ask you, what grade would you give the plot?
Let's see. Yeah, I don't really have anything against the plot. I really liked it. I liked the pacing and just the different characters and everything. I think some of the characters, the way they're portrayed, like as we said in all her films up to this point, don't, like, there's just things that are of the times that I'm just like, that's not how I would want to address some things like that. But overall, you don't
like to grab women by the collar and saying, "I want to have kids with you," while they're having a panic attack.
Is that? Oh, I thought that was industry standard. That's how you fix the woman. You see, you grab them by the collar and say, "Hey,
I love you so much. Why can't you see it?"
Both my legs work.
Oh yeah, he's not a war veteran this time.
Yeah,
because they're both like in their early
20s. I don't like trains. My legs work. I can't remember what hairstyle he had, but anyway, I would give this like B+, A-, A, like that area. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I liked it.
I think I was landing around B+, only because, like, for me, again, of the times, I would love if the main love interest didn't have to be the main love interest. But I think that's modern sensibilities for me. Because when you really think about that time was about, like, finding your sweetheart and then making it work. Because I know it is a theme in our movies where the person leaves and you're convinced that they'll never come back, and then they find their way back to each other. At least we didn't have to watch people on the floor punching and crying again.
You didn't like that?
Likely of the times, but... It made a lot more sense to me in the second movie than the first movie. The second movie where she's struggling with understanding when she's trying to figure out her physical health and she's pounding her fist on the floor. I'm like, yeah, that's a fair reaction when you are like forcing yourself to try and recover faster than you should, versus running for a half hour and then crying on a bridge and slamming your fist on the floor. I was kind of like, I didn't know I had an ick, but now I have an ick.
Yeah. To be fair, I act the same way every time I wake up to go to work. I probably made that joke before. But
you sprint 5 miles and then you trip and fall forward and you cry and punch the ground.
Yeah, that reminds me. I have there's a funny story that I'll have to just share. It won't. It's not really podcast worthy, but it does remind me of a 5 mile walk. Anyway, yeah. So there's that. And then, would you recommend this to anybody?
So, I think if we didn't,
likely, yeah.
I feel like if we hadn't watched the movie for next week's episode already, this one would probably be the one where I was like, oh, I think I can recommend this one to somebody. I'm sure I can find somebody who would like appreciate how this movie is filmed and the things they talk about. But now, knowing what the next week's episode is, that's the one I might recommend to people from this director to say, like, if you like her, maybe start with this one, because I think both this week's movie and next week's movie, like you said, they kind of fit well with, like, they fit better with modern sensibilities than the first two that we watched. Mm-hmm. The first two focus a lot on, like, a specific type of hospital that's specific to the time period. Granted, we have joked that the hospital in the second one might have to come back. But, I mean, yes, that's all.
If you want those jokes, you got to go to last week's episode. I just finished rendering it.
Huzzah!
It goes up next week of the time of the
timelines.
Yeah. So, and I would I would agree. I think. Yeah, I think, pretty much I would say the same thing, but I'm like, I think this would be a close second. Like, but I would still recommend this movie.
I think I could recommend this one to women and the next one to men.
Oh, I just say, like, hey, you grab my collar, you should watch this movie.
But I think, like, if there is just, like, a random guy that's like, I want to get into black and white films and I want to watch something that isn't, like, the things that everybody always talks about.
Spike Lee. We go tell him to watch Spike Lee.
But I feel like a guy would probably relate to the characters a little bit better in Hitchhiker, and a woman or female presenting person versus a masculine presenting person. A female presenting person would probably relate more to the character in Outrage.
I think Outrage offers more opportunity to discuss things, while the one, not to keep hinting of what we're the next week's episode, but I think that one's like, well, what would you do in that situation? Well, this one's just like, okay, well,
how do we support someone that's gone through something? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, what? Yeah.
Important perspectives in both. I do think it's very fun. It's very fun to watch these movies because you can tell that she's sharing, like, personal feelings and personal experiences. So, like, The Hitchhiker also has its opening card, like the way that Never Fear did. And I'm curious, like, how close she was to the Outrage scenario. Like, if she's telling it from her perspective like she did in Never Fear, or if it's, like, someone else that she knew that went through something like this. Mm-hmm. Especially in old Hollywood. I feel like old Hollywood is a lot of, how do I say this? She definitely said yes. That's how I'll phrase it for old Hollywood.
I was just scrolling down on the Wikipedia, and it says reception and legacy. And I was just quickly scanning through it. There's a review that was in the New Yorker by Richard Brody that they have the clip in here, where he is talking. He's glowing, lauding the film. Lupino's direction, saying, Lupino turns prudish Hollywood conventions into a crucial part of its story. Just as the word rape is never spoken in the movie, and is presented about talking about her experience and spurned by the torment that's enforced silence and trauma that shatters her sense of identity, and she runs away from home. Let's see. Lupino's drama blends Anne's story with the inclusive view of many I can't read. social.
Societal.
Society. Yeah, it's like I know the word because I heard it, and now I'm seeing it spelled out, and I'm like, my brain don't know. Societal failures that contribute to the crime, including the unwillingness of the legal system to face the prevalence of rape. Above all, Lupino depicts culture of leers and wolfish whistles and dominating boyfriends, and reveals the widespread and unquestioned aggression that women face in another word.
Ostensibly.
Thank you. I'm like, I hear these words and I see them written. I'm like, ooh. Consensual courtship that is ultimately inseparable from the violence that Anne endures. So,
very eloquently put. TLDR, it's messy, and the director makes it about the female character rather than about the actions afterwards.
About the boys. There could have very easily been a movie, and I'm pretty sure there is from just the list that we were watching, of the detectives trying to find the person who, I'm blanking on his name. I don't even think of it, but like the person who goes after.
I don't think they really give him a name.
Yeah, I was just looking through here. I'm trying to avoid going to IMDb because it will like be a flashbang in my eyes. But yeah, pretty much the person. The man who works at the concession stand. That's what they say in there. But yeah, the person in the. But whole
I mean, I think
crime,
I think it's a wonderful thing also that he kind of remains unnamed throughout the movie because while he is a main perpetrator, he is not the focus of it, which is an interesting angle. But is it time for Spoiler Town? You got the timer ready?
I do say it is time for Spoiler Town. Someone's been messaging me on Instagram. All right. And in 3, 2, 1... spoilers away.
Do you want my order of which man gave me the most ick in order?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so, I mean, granted, there's the evil guy. He's kind of like, number one icky, because, like, he commits a literal crime. Yeah, concession boy. Yeah, Mr. Sweaty McScar McGee.
Yeah, he was a given. He was not the one I'm like, you're going to be mad at him. I was like, no, that's
obvious. Everybody's mad at him. I think second...
If you're not, get help.
Yeah, don't idolize him. I think second, I'm going to go with the boyfriend-fiancé.
That's who I thought as soon as...
Yeah, because he's very much like, I still love you no matter what happened to you. Why can't you love me back? She's like, I don't feel like the same person I was before this happened. He's like, okay, but I love you and let's have kids. She's like, nobody's talking about what happened to me and that makes me feel worse. And he goes, yeah, we can put it behind us. She's like, you know what? I have to leave.
She tried to, but somebody was like, no.
Yes.
We'll get into that.
Then third, I would say, is the detective. The male detective. Well, actually, both detectives, they get a tie. Even though this is a list of me hating men, I kind of hate both detectives.
I forgot about the detectives.
Yeah, because you have the one guy that's like, if you don't tell me who it is, we can never arrest them. She's like, why are you making me relive my trauma? He's like, you don't understand. Look all of these men in the eye. That was a wild lineup of picking out the criminal.
They didn't have him there.
No, look them all in the eye and tell me, is that the eyes of the man that did this to you? And she's like, I'm having flashbacks.
Yeah. I didn't realize they were going to all be in the same room as well.
No glass, like protective screen, no photos. Like, why couldn't they have taken photos? They had film.
That's expensive. We don't waste money on women.
They could draw sketches.
In the 1950s.
But then, and then slash the other detective where you have the main character crying in bed, physically, like, barely cold from the crime. And she's like, okay, but what does he look like?
Yeah.
Okay, but, like, what was he wearing?
Stop being emotional and give me my information.
And then the mother is like, and the mom is like, can we, like, not do this right now? It's been maybe an hour since she's been home.
Yeah.
So I disliked them. Of course, next is the guy that's like, oh, come on, Toots. You're alone at the Spring festival. Don't you just want to dance with me? Can't I just follow you into the woods and lean on you very closely, even though I've never met you? Come on, Toots. You can't look that good and be all alone. I was like, yeah, of course he deserved a wrench to the head.
I have a music career that's failing. Hey, Toots.
Mr. Piano Man, go back to Brazil.
No, they don't want me.
Call back to episode 1. And then I couldn't tell if I got the ick or not from the Reverend. Because there were some times where he would look at her. I was like, don't kiss her. Don't kiss her. And then he kisses her on the forehead. I was like, you still kissed her. I was like so scared that he was going to kiss her on the mouth before sending her on the bus. And I was like, please, you're so old. She literally sees you as a father figure.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was another scene where they were like, oh yeah, he was playing piano and she's like leaning on the floor with her head on his knee. I was like, don't kiss.
Yeah, I was like,
don't kiss.
Yeah, I'm like, I hope this doesn't end with the Reverend in there, because it's just, I don't know. Once again, different director, different time, different movie. It would have been
the amount of times they looked each other in the eyes was too much.
Yeah, how dare men and women make eye contact?
Especially in those times, heathens.
Yes.
But yeah, so I would say the only guy in the movie... Okay, I guess I respect 2 men in the movie. I respected her dad a lot, because the detective's like, we have no leads. And her dad's like, okay, but like, tell me, how am I supposed to go to sleep at night when I know that there are people that do this to young women? My daughter was a normal person this morning, and now she's like a shell of a human being. And I was like, go, Dad, fight for her. Except he didn't know how to find her. But again, 1950s, I guess. Yeah. And then the other guy that didn't give me the ick was the guy who ends up giving her the job and letting them stay in her house. Because he's just like, man, it's kind of quiet with her when she's run away. I'm like, yeah, that's the response you should have as a man. Just go, oh, I guess she's not here. I'm trying to remember who the other men... There's a lot of men in this. I did not like her coworkers. Mr. Stampy McGee. I thought he was going to be normal in the beginning, because he was like, oh, congratulations on your ring fitting, because engaged. Oh, the only interaction she has with the guy that perpetuated.
Ooh, I'm sorry.
You're sneezing.
Sorry.
The guy that did the crime, her only interaction with him was, you buy 2 slices of cake every day, but you're a thin little young lady.
Yep.
You got a man's? Because there's no way you're eating this cake by yourself, hot stuff. And she's just like, thank you for my cake, I'm leaving now. He's like, what, you're not gonna talk to me? It's like, I want to talk to you either. Just tell me, do you have a boyfriend? Finds out she's engaged, commits a crime.
Yep. Boys.
That's one way to put it. But yeah, so there's my definitive list on the crappy people in this movie, which is mostly the people in power. And I also did hate all of her neighbors, because her neighbors very much did the classic small town thing of, oh, hello, dearie, hope you're doing well. As soon as she walks past, whisper, 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 did you hear what happened to her? Whisper, whisper, whisper.
Can you believe that there's a sale on cheese down on aisle whatever? That's not rhubarb. That's what I say.
But I did appreciate, I think it was done, I was surprised at how well it was done. Kind of the way that this director depicts like panic attacks in characters. Like when she tries to go back to work and pretend everything's normal, and then the like progression of sound and everything, and then her kind of just being like, I just simply cannot be here. And everyone's like, oh, honey, just move on from it. You'll be fine. It's not that bad. And she's like, I'm leaving. I can't be here. Because her supposed best friend is just like, come on. Nobody's looking at you. Nobody's talking about you. Liar.
Yeah. And then, yeah, it's like another thing where, I don't know, it felt like everything happened fast, which the movie's only, like a little over at 75 minutes, yeah, so an hour 10. And, yeah, it was just watching it, it's like, it's one of the things. It's I'm not gonna hold this against Lupina because like some of the movies, it's a whole year. Like the first sec, what was it? The second movie, yeah, Never Fear.
Oh, there's a clear progression of
You
time.
clear progression of time. In the next movie, there's a clear progression of time. In this one, it's like there's once she leaves San Francisco, whatever town she gets to, there's a pretty clear progression of time. But it's like before that, it doesn't. It's not very clear. Like okay, because it makes it sound like she was there. Her dad like goes into work, and like this is like all like okay. The incident happened. She's at home recovering. Her dad goes into work, and that night she's like, "They were all staring at me. I can't believe it." And she's like, "I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna show them." Goes to walk to work, and where the whole town is waddling about, just like buzzing, doing whatever's, and like they're all staring at her, and then like everybody in the like in her office is like awkwardly like tiptoeing like on eggshells around her, and it's just like what the heck's going on here? Like just everyone's being awkward, which in a sense, yes, I can understand like how
You don't know what to say.
how do you say, but at the same time it's like the obvious like there was the one thing like there was a couple reactions I had while watching this movie. It's like this is a really strong case for therapy and like for help and all that stuff. It gets there. It does get there at the end. It had to be court ordered, but still it gets there. And I'm just like, but at that point it was like I don't know, because around that time like publicly talking about like therapy and getting help like that in that manner was such taboo until it felt like
to reintegrate to society, or whatever phrasing it was that the judge used.
But not like even just going and seeing like and this isn't the case, but just like another form of this, like seeing marriage counseling or like kind of anything like a therapist for like some problem, like whether it's like kind of mental health or addiction, to just like I need help on just this certain area in my life that isn't like a harmful thing to anybody. But it's just like it feels like a lot of that was kept quiet, but it feels like right around like 2019 2020 everybody like it became a lot more normal where a lot of people are open to talking about it. While I just remember different things where it's just like even in the 90s and the 2000s and the 2010s, it was just like, oh
the stigma was really big. Yeah.
And so like I was wondering in the 1950s when when this came out, like around that time, I could only imagine that I guess we kind of see it where it's just like that wasn't something that was offered to her right away. It was just like
everyone in that town seemed really ill-equipped on understanding what she is feeling. Mm-hmm. Like everyone was like, well, now that it's over, we're gonna have to go back to normal, and she's like, it can't be normal again.
Yeah.
And yet everybody's gonna treat me like this little like glass doll that if they say the wrong thing I'm gonna shatter. So then like she can't have a normal interaction ever again. Mm-hmm. And then she has a freaking boyfriend husband. Don't you understand? I don't care what has been done to you. I will love you and we will have a bajillion children and it'll be fantastic. And she's just like, I feel disgusting. Like, I don't know who I am right now. Can you give me a break? And he's like, no, because I am going to be your husband.
It's baby time.
And I think at one point they say, like, she's in her early 20s. And, like, her parents talk about, like, oh, you're too young to get married. Mm-hmm. And yet, it's baby time.
In America, it's always baby time in the 1950s. But, yeah, so it was just one of those things that I was just sitting there watching, like, where it's just like, okay, was this such a specialized thing, like how depending on your health insurance in America, you need referrals, like did they need court referrals for people to get therapy about certain things? Like was it, I don't know. this is me also getting confused with the little bits and pieces I know of Call of Cthulhu kind of stuff, where it's just like, back in I believe in the 20s, like late 1800s to early 1990s, like they had the asylums and they had their own problems, but
The
like
institutions.
yeah, and so. And I know they were shut down at some point, so I don't know if this would fall like in between, like when that stuff was, because of the abuse and all the other like terrible things that were happening behind closed doors to some of those patients. Like I don't know.
Mental Health Systems Act of 1980 was
Yeah.
signed by Jimmy Carter to improve the provision of mental health services. So there's that one. I don't know if that one is the one when the institutions closed.
I feel like they closed like, I want to say in the 70s, like
So leading up to that act.
yeah. And then it was just like there was no care, and then all that. But anyway, that's okay.
Oh, I have a wiki. The United States has experienced 2 waves of deinstitutionalization, the process of replacing long-stay psychiatric hospitals with less isolated community health services. The first wave began in the 1950s, and the second wave began roughly 15 years later, so 65. So it does sound like about the 50s, from the 50s to like late 60s is probably when they stopped forcibly institutionalizing people.
Now we just vote him in office.
I was going to say, they want to put them on the farms. I don't know if you've heard that one.
No.
The beloved leader of the health services said everyone on SSRIs should be put on a farm as laborers.
We will plant them and grow them into beautiful butterflies.
I have one friend who's on SSRIs. They're like, oh, yeah, I'm going to be the personality hire. I was like, no, everybody on SSRIs is the personality hire. I haven't met a single person on one that I don't like being around. Because more times than not, you've done everything else that you can, and then you were told, to help with your journey, you might need an SSRI after lots of therapy. And it's like, you know what? If you've been through that much therapy, you're probably a really funny person.
The other thing that I thought was really interesting while watching this movie was, man, you could disappear so easily.
I wish it was still the case.
Yeah.
Not being able to be found for like a couple months sounds pretty sweet.
Yeah. Well, there is a really easy way to like do that, and it's just got to get rid of the phone. And then it's just
But there's also like surveillance cameras. Like if you like street cameras can spot you. Other people with their phones can find you. Mm-hmm. Like it's a lot harder.
And going through Easy Pass.
Passing any major road.
Yes. But anyway, yeah, it's interesting. You just gotta go to like, it's when you gotta like go to a Dakota and then be like, just go in and be like, all right, here's these woods. No one wants to be here. Cool. but yeah, it was interesting of just like, yeah, she bought a ticket to San Francisco. Is she in San Francisco? No.
She went to get herself a little coffee, and she heard her name on the radio, and the guy getting her coffee didn't even care that she didn't drink her coffee.
Yeah, well...
He just went to clean the dishes as she's running outside and fainting outdoors.
You know what? Hey, he was just like, I got enough to deal with.
Another runaway? Bah.
I'm a runaway. But yeah, so... And then, like, pretty much that's all, like, the first third of the movie.
And then she balances checkbooks.
Yeah.
So well that they're like, oh, you can stay on the farm forever if you want, I guess. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, and what, she packs produce very well.
Well, she starts off with that, and then it's just like...
She said she was a bookkeeper back in her hometown.
And they're like, oh, why don't you help out with whatever, balance the books. And so, I don't know, I did find it interesting, like how the Reverend was more like, I can understand like definitely how she was acting. I guess from
She's
my
young, yeah.
yes, I guess from my perspective of someone who is like, I'm not a reverend, but I have been a pastor and all that stuff. I guess like from my own experience from that, it's just like I saw a lot of things where it's like, okay, this is somebody like I literally found on the side of the road passed out. I brought her somewhere to get help and kind of taking responsibility, be like, okay, we know she's running away from something. She's by people that are trusted and can help and look out for her and just and everything. And it's I like there's definitely signs where Anne, that's her name.
Yeah, Walton.
Yeah,
Because she
Anne
lies
Walton.
about her last name as well. I
Yes.
forget what her fake last name was.
I don't remember either. But where like she's like, okay, the first person that treats her like a human and is like looking out for her that isn't like babies, but it's just like you can kind of see like, oh, like her having affection, and it's just I don't know. Like I know people who would would interact the way he does with her in the same way, but like still give like the looks of like I'm not like
Arm's length, yeah.
Yes, yeah, and I thought it was interesting. I'm like, I really hope this movie doesn't end with like, hey, let's get hitched, and it's just. But the other hand, I don't. And once again, this is where it comes like a thing of the times where I'm like, I don't think, it. I don't. I didn't really like the advice that he was giving, where it's just like, no, go, like, yes, go back with your family. They care. They're looking for you.
And you've
And
got a young man who wants to
yeah,
marry you. And it's like, stop bringing him up.
yeah, and it's so like that. That's the one thing I'm like, but
And didn't he say that, like, that really icky line, like, don't waste your youth, as if to imply, like, oh, don't marry me, you're young and hot, and you should be having babies.
I don't, he did say something on the lines of that, and it's like, it, I could see it like him kind of being like turning her away, where it's just like, no, like I thought the way I guess from my perspective, and I know this is just my perspective, I know other people can look at that their interactions differently, but it was just I saw it from him where he's just like he took more of like a mentoring, because he was talking about like things just like, no, I come here, let me take you to this place where like where I was
It's
like
his quiet time.
yeah, and it's like where I find peace, and this is where I paint and draw and all that stuff, and it's just like, hey, I hope this can be a place of healing for you as well, to kind of get things in order. And like I guess that's how, once again, being in that role and kind of helping other people is like, maybe that's just my point of view from that same perspective. I didn't view it as him like,
I just didn't like the scene
yeah,
where
the scene where she's
the
like
bus
on
stop.
the bus stop, yeah.
Oh, the bus stop and the floor by the piano.
Yeah.
The bus stop, like, they kept just staring at each other, and then he, like, leans in, and I was like, ah!
Yeah.
And then he kisses her on the forehead. I'm like,
And so, and that's one of the things where I'm just like, I'm wondering. Oh, something digested. I'm not wondering that. I just heard it. But but yeah, it's like I don't know if like because I don't know. In my world today, like kissing and like any of that is feels more like romantic. While if part of me is like, is that like kind of just, I don't know. It's just one of those things like, I don't know what like a forehead kiss, I don't even know what that means today. But it's still like, probably wouldn't have done that. But it's just like, okay, like go on the bus and like you have to go back and
go
with your
home,
family.
child.
Yeah, it's like, and it's I could also see where it's just like that line of "don't waste your youth" here, where it's just like everyone here is like older, except for that like the handful of people that work on the lumber, or not the lumber farm, on the
Packing.
farm. Yeah, but it's just I could also see him being looking at it like, which once again, it's us looking on the outside because it's like they didn't go into it, but it's just like, hey, this town doesn't have the resources to actually help you. While it seemed like her parents were in a bigger town, and it could have been like, yeah, it seemed like what a couple months. There's a couple month gap before she's sent back, because I think that's when the court orders her to have that, and they were supposed to. He was supposed to watch over her for like, I forget how long. If it was supposed to.
Yeah,
Oh, I see it
forget.
right there, for a year.
I knew that was like, yeah, the recommendation, because it was funny to me, because like maybe I cheered a little bit when I thought she killed a man. I might have gone, yeah, hell yeah, I support women's wrongs. But but it was funny where the judge is like, but murder is murder. It's like, but you don't understand her circumstances. The system has failed her, sir. And the judge is like, bah, okay, go get her checked by a psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist report comes back, well, you're not well.
Yeah.
It's like, why? Wow, who would have thought?
Yeah. So it's yeah. And there's still like, from what I hear, I've been looking at this movie poster for like the whole recording, and I'm like, Outrage is not starting to not look like Outrage anymore. I'm like Outrage or all right. Like, it's becoming French the more I look at it. But yeah, it's but I do like the way that because I think it says up here that Lupino co-wrote the script. And something that I think I mentioned in the last episode, I know there was something with sound, but it's just like there's a lot of things with sound that she plays with. Just and like the absence of sound.
And then always a piano number. Sorry.
Well, yeah, I think that's more the noir tinge, but yeah, the chase scene that we talked about, where it's just silence, and then like being the cat calls and whistles, and I just remember watching this and I'm like, why are you hiding on a flat surface? Like, move. It's like, man, if you just like kept moving, and then like the way he was walking like stinking knife hockey mask boy Jason. Or Michael Myers. There we go.
That
like,
impending, like, you're like, you can't catch me as long as I keep running. And it turns out.
Yeah, and so I'm just like, man, if you just kept going, and like, I'll admit, when she ran into the trash can, I didn't even see the trash can on the film.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, that one, okay, I'll give it to you. The horn, I don't know how car horns work today. So it's just like, I know in Jersey I hear them a lot. But anyway, it's, yeah, there's just like a few things I'm just like, I understand being scared, but I don't understand why you keep stopping for that long to look around. And then she does the same thing in the packaging when the cops show up, just like, and I'm like, well, I see you. It's been like a year and you still don't know how to run and hide.
Could be at the times.
Yeah.
Nobody learned how to play hide and seek.
She got better when she knocked that dude in the head with the wrench.
Yeah, that wasn't hide and seek. That was just, adrenaline.
Yep. So yeah, but anyway, we mentioned it before, but there's like, after the incident, there's like, as we're seeing like the trauma really come in, and I think there's another scene, well, like when Wrenchhead gets, I think that also like brings back a lot of the stuff, but yeah, like the whole thing where it's just like she's sitting there, and then like the silence of walking down the street and the whispers, and like there's like, we're sitting there watching like the house, there's nobody there, and then as soon as she steps out, it's just like all these people are there, and it's interesting, like, because she does that in Never Fear, because
when she first
with all
leaves
the
the
kids,
clinic.
yeah, with all the people that are just around here, and then like all the kids, and just like there's like no life around life like that,
and then they also do it in the other The one where she leaves the polio clinic because she has her
Mm-hmm.
cane, and all of a sudden it goes from
Yes.
like, oh, my little isolated community to yap 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 bright light yap 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 yap
Mm-hmm.
yap.
Oh wait, that's Never Fear. The children one is whatever the
Not
first one
wanted.
is. Not Wanted. Yes. Um, yeah. Um, yeah. So, but then in this one, I think it takes it to a whole new level where it's just like we have Stampy McGee coworker that's just like I was like, man, they're really focusing in on this, and then it's just how it slowly morphs into the footsteps, and then she starts like hearing the whistles, and he's like, and then he's like, hey, we're sorry, and he's just like, ah! Like rightfully so, and they're just like, they lead her out, and then it's just like, look at the scars. Look at the scars. No. Look at them.
That was like, if I was forced in a situation like that, I would probably just throw up. To have like 5 men with scars and leather jackets looking at me, and the detective being like, all right, pick him out. Which one is he? He can hear you, by the way.
The price is right.
I did like how excited she was when they said that they caught him when he confessed to the crime. And that they said that, he's a man who has a past, and they kept letting him walk. And duh, maybe it is a problem with society. But what do we know? We haven't had 75 years to learn from our mistakes.
Nope.
But no, yeah, like
We doubled down. Anyway, that's.
Anyway,
Is there anything else? Like we got 40 seconds left on the timer that we want. That we would.
I don't think I have much else to add. I mean, I think it was kind of like the quote you read from the New York Times or the New Yorker, where it's surprisingly done in a sensitive way and in a way that I can appreciate the perspective of, hey, what happens after a crime like this? And it focuses a lot more on nobody really knows, and it's not easy to heal from.
Mm-hmm.
So it is something I'd recommend to people. Surprising, since it was 75 years ago, but again.
Yeah, it feels like a much more down to earth, grounded reality. Like it is a theatrical production, but
It doesn't feel dramatized.
Yeah, where it's like I don't think if this movie was made today, it wouldn't have been the same way. Like it, I feel like
It'd be a lot less subtle, a lot less
less subtle,
yeah.
and I think there would be a lot more focus on like the incident. Like it would be like I feel like that where movies are built up now, where it'd be a lot more like built up on like the leading up to the incident, or if it was after, it would be like I feel like what makes this movie stand out to me was she was dealing with the trauma, she was dealing with everything, but once she was able to get away and kind of got back into a little bit of normalcy, like how she was able to like, even though people were like still trying to help her and be like, what's going on, and she's like, no, I didn't want to talk about it, but like she kind of like bottled it up, which one ain't healthy, but it's just she it felt like we as the audience know what happened to her and what she's going through, but it showed a viewer who's like, no, I'm gonna hide this from everybody, and if it's not part of my world, nobody needs to know. And
yeah, and it also reflected like how hard it was for her to connect to other people because she can't trust anybody because she has this like big sinking like stone in her body where whenever people want to talk to her, she's like she has to cut it off before they find out anything. Because like the Reverend points out, he's like, here's my quiet spot where I come to think. Maybe you can start to think. Maybe you can open up. And she's like, no, not that part.
yeah, where's my wrench?
But I don't have much else to add. Just a general thumbs up.
You didn't put any thumbs up for any audio listeners. She didn't. She just sat there
Wow.
and said it. But anyway, if you guys enjoyed this and you watched it or have agree or disagree, let us know. I think the YouTube comments are the easiest way for us to find out.
To get notified, yeah.
Because I don't know how to read anything on Spotify. And as I am quite regular user of Spotify, I don't even know where to find...
Like leave reviews.
Yeah, I don't know where to do any of that. So, but all that being said, do that. Share it if you enjoyed the conversation, or I don't know, didn't like it and you want someone else to have a bad time. Hey, if you made it this far and you had a bad time, thanks. But anyway, next week we are talking about Hitchhiker, which is our 4 out of 5 Ida Lupino movies. So we'll see you guys next week, and until next time, doodles.